Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? This is your boy Isaac.
And this is your boy Bryce.
And we are brothers on tennis. And folks, I'm trying to tell you, this is a special episode right here. We have got someone on the program that, I tell you what, just an absolute icon of the sport of tennis. And just we are absolutely just blessed to have her on this podcast and to really have a moment to talk with her. And Bryce, I know you have to be excited because you grew up on this sport. I know that you have always followed this lady. Can you talk a little bit about our guest today?
Yeah, this is a very, very special day for me. I think a lot of people remember who were the players that were really doing it when you first kind of got in the game and you were eating and living and breathing tennis.
Right.
And for me, that was kind of in that mid-'80s period. And so, I was the big Lindell fan and, following McEnroe. And then on the women's side, for me, it was Martina Navratilova and this woman right here, Zina Garrision.
Miss Zina Garrision, that's right.
Where today's tennis community really kind of has Venus and Serena. Right. Really a lot more people now, but mainly Venus and Serena in terms of who they look up to from an African-American standpoint in tennis. For me, during my time, it was Zina Garrision.
That's right. That's right.
And for our listeners, I just want to take a few minutes because everyone may not be aware of everything this woman has done. And for someone like me who actually followed her career while she was playing, even reviewing her stats, I was like, damn, Zina, right? She really kind of did it, right? But, she was, she used to be the number one ranked junior.
Yep.
She won in 1981, both the Wimbledon and the U.S. Open junior.
First African-American female number one in Texas.
Yes.
Right?
And so she really did at a junior level. She then went professional the following year and was named the WTA newcomer of the year. Just her achievements as a singles player. I mean, she reached a career high ranking of number 4. She has the distinct honor of having been in the top 25 for 14 consecutive years.
Crazy.
She has 14 singles titles. And I just want to name a few of the people that she has singles wins over, right?
Yes. Who she beat up? Who she beat up on?
Right.
Who she beat up on?
So you may know a few legends by the names of Martina Navratilova.
I think I heard that name.
Chris Everett, Hana Malakova, Steffi Graf, Monica Seles. And then for your current players or your current, listeners and watchers of the game, some of your favorite tennis commentators. So Pam Shriver, Mary Jo Fernandez, Tracy Austin, our girl Chanda Rubin.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in the episode, but Katrina Adams, and that's another person I want to give a little more shine to because I don't think people are really up on what she has done in her post-tennis career. But, Zina's Grand Slam singles highlight had to be the 1990 Wimbledon tournament where she beat Helena Sukova, Monica Seles, Steffi Graf, and met Martina Navratilova in the finals. Just a very distinguished singles career. But she also did it in doubles. She had a career high ranking of 5 in doubles and had such partners as Gabriela Sabatini, Martina Navratilova, Pam Shriver, Mary Jo Fernandez. And then she had her crew of like Katrina Adams and Lori Neal. And she actually won 3 mixed doubles Grand Slam titles. So, today it's tough sometimes to find the top singles players playing doubles, but back in that day they did.
Exactly.
And Zina was a great example of that. In the Olympics, she has won 2 medals. She got the bronze in singles in 1988 and won the gold in doubles that year with Pam Shriver. And then even after she stopped playing, she served as the U.S. Fed Cup captain for about 5 years. And she also led the U.S. Olympics team in 2008 when Venus and Serena won one of their doubles gold medals.
Amazing.
So
just
you can't do all of this and not be somebody in the game, right?
Trendsetter. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, this lady has done so much for this sport and for the African American community, and I am so very excited to be able to talk to her today. So, folks, without any further delay, let us introduce to you Miss Zina Garrison. We're gonna bring you in with a clap, Zina. How you doing this evening?
I'm good. Thank you so much for all of that. Actually, I forgot I did all that stuff.
All right. See? Sometimes you can't even remember how good you were. Come on now.
You just live in the moment.
I understand that. And Zina, we are so interested in just hearing everything and all the background that you have for us. And so how about we just kind of start off with just this, of course, general question. How did you get introduced to tennis? How did you come about, the love for this sport?
Yeah, actually it was very interesting because I had a brother that's actually 12 years older than I am, played baseball for Texas Southern University. And he had a girlfriend in high school that played tennis. And I went out to McGregor Park, which is a park here in Houston. And I was sitting down. My brother was playing baseball behind me on the baseball field. And I was watching this guy play tennis. And the guy's name was John Wilkerson. And so John actually became my coach. And so he was teaching kids for free and asked me if I'd like to come out on Thursdays and try tennis. And so I came out and tried it. And, it was fun. I played baseball, so it was kind of interesting. And he had asked me to come out on the court and try to hit a ball. And I said, okay. So I hit the first one over the fence and I was like, woo, like, yeah. And he was like, no. Exactly. Like, that ain't going to work. So then he was like, well, he told me to keep it in the white line. So I choked up on the racket and just started kind of keeping it in play like ping pong. And so I ended up quitting for a couple of weeks and stuff and ended up getting a brand new bike and started riding my bike with my friends. Well, Bill Cosby came out to do a tennis clinic. And so I came out for the tennis clinic. And out of 100 kids, he picked me. And so I've basically been playing ever since.
Oh, that is so incredible. And John Wilkerson, I remember that he was with the American Tennis Association, right? So that's sort of like that predominantly Black tennis league that was out there kind of early on, right?
Yes. John played a lot of ATAs, which was American Tennis Association, which is a tennis association that back in the day when Black people weren't allowed to play in the USTA events, they had their own event called the American Tennis Association. And so John knew a lot of people from there. And we had a really good program and a lot of kids that came up in our program here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Excellent. Now, and did you play in the ATA at all?
Yeah, I actually did play in the ATA. I played, I think it was like 15 or 6. I think it was 16. I actually played the adults. And back then, if you win the adults, you would get into the main draw of the U.S. Open.
Oh, wow.
I had a deal with them back then for the wild card. And so I actually I was able to play in my first professional tournament was one of them was at the U.S. Open. And I never forget, I was walking through the tunnels. That's when they had the old stadium and the Grand Slam were together. And I was walking down there and I remember Martina Navratilova was like, "Hi, Zina," and I was like, "What? She knows my name."
Right?
So I told Martina that story. She's like, "Well, we knew all the people that were coming up." I was like, "Oh,
okay." Man, that is so awesome. Yeah, I would freak out to be if Martina kind of talked to me as well. That is absolutely insane.
That's good because I did not know that part about the Bill Cosby, nor even getting the opportunity to play through the ATA.
That is so awesome.
Yeah,
Wow, so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, American Tennis Association. You guys should definitely look it up if you haven't. It's still going on. They don't have that situation anymore where they actually gave the wild cards back to the USTA, which I still never understood why they did. But anyway, so it's gone.
Wow. Yeah, we will definitely look into that. Yeah, we will do some more research and because that's really interesting. We gotta pay homage. Yeah, for sure. I guess, Zina, I wanted to ask you a little bit more just about being an African American female in the game of tennis, especially back in the day, the 80s and the 90s. I mean, what was sort of the climate? I mean, how did people treat you at all? Did you notice there being any differences between you and other players, and just interested in some of the pressures that potentially came with all of that?
Well, I was in an interesting scenario. Anyway, being a Black and being an all-white sport, and coming out as a number one junior, so I immediately had the support from all the Black players that were out there, like Leslie Allen, Kim Sands, Renee Blunt, and they immediately took me to the side, and it was really interesting because they would always say, this is what you do against this player, this is what you do against, don't talking to that player, we can do it, but you can do it. They always pump me up and was always very supportive, made sure that, I knew the rules. And then I also had a lot of support from like non-people, like Barry Gordy was a huge mentor. Maya Angelou, a lot of the distinguished Black people actually were big supporters because I was the only, not that I was the only one, but I was playing at the top at that time. So I was breaking a lot of barriers. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Had no idea that folks like that had reached out to you. That's great to hear because Bryce and I were actually even talking about the episode how there was that tennis mentoring program that I believe you were involved with as well. But I guess we didn't realize that there was sort of that unofficial mentorship going on even when you came into the game. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I think you're talking about the Women's Tennis Association. They started about the time when Venus and Serena came around. They started the Women's Tennis Association, started a mentoring program, and they actually would put you together with players that they felt that you were very similar to. And a lot of it had to do with attitude, had to do with emotions on the court, all things. And Pam Shriver was actually Venus's and I was Serena's. And so basically the whole thing is just they would ask you questions and you just kind of follow them. And so when they first put me with Serena, I was like, what? But then when I was like, we're both moody, we're both the same. So we would laugh about that. Both emotional.
Hey, but that emotion, you both use that to be the champions that you are. So to me, that's an aspect of the game that I feel like people underappreciate, or they try to make that a negative. And it's like that emotion is good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a question with that. So do you because of that early mentorship relationship, did that really help with your did you and Serena maintain a relationship past that?
Yeah, about as much as you can with someone like Serena. But the great thing about Serena, she, I actually had known them since they were 7 and 8. Their dad used to call me all the time and ask questions. And I went out to Compton a couple of times when they were younger. So I had somewhat of a relationship with them already. But the thing I can tell you about Serena, and I tell a lot of young people this or whatever, she's truly a champion. She would, she'll text you in a minute and ask, did you see anything in my game? Like she's always asking questions like that. And that has not stopped. You know,
Nice.
if I text her now and say, you know, what's up with your serve, she'll ask you, you know, what you think. So she's like that. She always wants to win. She always wants to improve. So, and that's as of today.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, you know, one of the things, you know, I know we were talking about how the climate was in the 80s and the 90s when you were playing. I remember one of the stories that came out, and I think it was around the time that you made it to that Wimbledon final, and it was really exposed that you, although with all of your accomplishments, you had not received the endorsements that some of your peers had received. And I think you didn't even really receive any major endorsements until that Wimbledon final. What was that like?
Yeah, actually, I went literally 5 years, and I was, you know, as high as 4 in the world, highest, you know, been in the top 5 twice, and I had no endorsements. And, you know, even had an article. So I when I came on tour, I was with Pony. I don't know if you guys remember the Pony.
Oh, I remember Pony.
Come on now.
And so I literally remember my agent saying to me that, you know, they were going to go with someone else. And I remember, you know, there was an article that basically said that this other person got it because she was blind and blue eyes. So it was kind of like, you know, not a slap in the face, but it's like, okay, you're still black in an all-white sport, you know. And I remember going across, I remember there was this junior agent, and I was in New York, and he comes across the street, and he runs me down. He's like, "Who do you think you are, Michael Jordan? Like, you want so much money?" And I was like, "What?" So the next day I went in, and I went into Don Odell, and I told him about it, and he was like, he said, "What to you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, this is like, so I don't want this guy anywhere around me. So anyway, he literally went on, and they gave me another guy. But that culture was always there. But the players never really treated me any different. But the culture was there. And, you know, not until, and most people don't even realize this, and I remember I was in, I had retired, and I was actually at the U.S. Open, and Serena came down, and we were watching a match, and she sat next to me, and she's like, "Zina, guess what? I got my first Fortune 500 endorsement." And I think it was like IBM, when she did the commercials for IBM, the computer or something.
Right, yep.
And I said, "What?" And mind you not, she had already won like 4 or 5 Grand Slams.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm very serious. And she was so excited. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, you already won 4 or 5 Grand Slams, and you just got your first, you know? So it's like people don't realize.
And yet I'm sure at that same time, Sharapova probably already had plenty by then, yet did not have the same number.
Point taken without me saying it. Yeah. So, you know, so going back to me, like back then, I had to go, and, you know, I got to the finals of Wimbledon. I had to go. I was wearing Martina Navratilova's clothes. Wow. And I had to tell Martina that I was going to, I wasn't going to wear clothes for the finals. And I'm playing her, right? And but, you know, I got an endorsement with Reebok and stuff, and I'll never forget Martina's like, "Whoo, Wimbledon title? I'm way too superstitious. I don't know if I would do that, but I understand." So we laughed all the time about that. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have worn that. I should have kept wearing your clothes. Been a lot worse.
I just want to jump in and say, you know, as really a huge fan of yours, you have 2 moments in my mind that I will never forget. They're just, and obviously the one is the 1990 Wimbledon final. Right. And as you heard me mention, you know, as I was coming up, you know, Martina Navratilova on the ladies' side was kind of like my favorite player. But then Zina was always kind of like the one I had the emotional connection with, right? Absolutely. And so to have that Wimbledon final where it was Martina and Zina,
you was messed up.
Yeah, I was like, this is like the perfect scenario for me. So that was one. The second one was, and look, I'm sure she's a very nice woman.
Uh-oh.
I've never met her, but you know how it is. There are like certain players that if you're a fan of them, you can't be a fan of the other one.
Right.
And so since I was in Martina's camp, I wasn't a Chris Everett fan.
Yeah.
And so when Zina, once again, my emotional favorite, when she showed Chris the door at the 1989 U.S. Open, that was the best thing for me because I was like, Chris has to go and Zina's in a packet.
There is. I always say, like, Tyler Perry, if you're listening, I have the best tennis movie for you. It's my life because I've had ups and downs and the people that I've beat and just, but going back to Chris, now that, so it's taken her a long time. She still won't say to this day that I was the last one that beat her. She still won't say that. If you kind of listen to play, she still doesn't say it. She'll kind of go around it. But anyway, so if you guys, I don't know if you watched the U.S. Open this year, so I was commentating. So we're talking about the Osaka and Coco and how Osaka went over, hugged or whatever. And they were making a deal like, oh, it's never happened before. And so I'm like, look on up on the board and I see me and Chrissy because it's a very historical picture because I'm crying and she's hugging me. But the reason I'm crying because I grew up with Chris Evert and I knew it was her last match and, that's just me. And I knew what she meant to tennis and everything. But I never forget, I walked into the to the interview room, and the very first question the guy said to me, so how does it feel to be a victim? I said, what? He's like, I mean, not a victim, to be a villain. I said, what?
Oh.
A villain? I was like, so why am I a villain, And he's like, well, you beat Chris Evert, and, everybody was waiting for Chris and Martinez match, and, so you're the villain. I was like, are you serious? So,
my goodness.
Anyway, so I come out of there. So literally, and I am not lying, for a month I played and people were not clapping for me. And I was like, what in the hell is this? I would be at the shot and people weren't clapping. So a couple months goes by and one of my goddaughters asked, and she was like probably, I think Brittany at that time was probably like 7 or 8. So she was like, Nana, please, can you come to my school? So I went to her school. So I walk into the school and the lady says to me, her teacher, and says, well, first of all, I didn't believe Brittany. And I said, hey, but she told you that, that's my godchild and whatever. And she said, well, I didn't really believe her. And she said, the other thing is, I have to just admit, I haven't liked you since you beat Chris Evert. And I was like, are you serious?
Oh, wow.
This lady was holding on to this. It was just ridiculous. So, but I felt it from like so many people. And I remember I was playing Sabatini one time. And she was like, what is going on? Like, you're hitting good shots and nobody's clapping. I'm like,
Oh my God. Zina, we had no idea that it was like that. That is.
Well, that's why when I say, because I'm being dead serious. If y'all know Tyler, tell Tyler I got a movie for him, okay? Because people will not believe my life and stuff, some of the stuff. But when you're breaking barriers and you're going through it, and now people, because Serena and them have broken so many, like people don't realize that there was somebody before them that things were tougher. Like with me, I can't even imagine what Althea Gibson went through.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, Tyler Perry, hopefully you are listening. Because, we need to go on.
More pieces than one.
All right. We need to go and get Zina a movie because I would be the first in line to see said movie. Yes, I would.
Right. So Zina, let me ask you this question. So you have a very unique perspective of having seen the game or participated in the game from many years back. Mm-hmm. what are some of the differences you see in the game today versus maybe when you played? And also kind of along with that, I'm sure there are probably still some changes you would like to see in the game. And what would some of those be?
Well, I would start with the first question, like some of the changes that like I see are, it's very interesting because, you know, I'm very good friends with Sloane Stevenson's coach, Kamal Murray.
Right.
So, I mean, we talk literally almost every day. But it's the whole thing, it's just like these girls now, they make so much money that there's no real passion for the game. So you find that, and you probably would notice that in all sports and all of the older ones with me. Like, you know, we played the game because we loved it, you know, and there was a respect for, you know, the game. They don't really, it's like, I'm not going to say, it takes a very special person to like understand the history and respect the game. And then you'll see like someone like the little one, Coco and Katie, you know, her doubles partner, they're two old souls because they truly respect the game, but they play like it.
That's right.
And so you'll probably see longevity with those two. But most of the other ones, you know, they get the money, they make so much money now, and it's like, you know, it's like the whole life and presence on Instagram is about look at me and look at what I'm doing when you know your house is not right in the back.
Right. You gotta preach. Come on now.
So, you know, that's and you know, everybody says the power, and I was thinking about this the other day. You know, yeah, the power and stuff is all there, but the court is still the same. It hasn't changed in how many years? The court.
Right.
And you know, you hear all the time, well, you probably couldn't play in this era. Well, the court is still the same. Only thing that's changed is the rackets.
Right.
And your mental attitude or the way you go about the game, I'm sure I would have adjusted. You know, the same thing as a Martina or a Chrissy or you would adjust to what you do or what you want to do because you just have to grow with the game.
That's
like
right.
People don't talk about Martina changed women's sports basically when Martina started changing her eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking, you know, now they're vegan or they're whatever. I'm like, Martina Navratilova and Carl Lewis were vegans way back before anybody thought about being it. Carl came to my house one day and threw everything in my pantry away.
Did he though?
No, that's a true story. Yeah.
Wow.
I tell you, I'm not lying when I say Tyler needs to call me. No. Literally, my housekeeper, she's called, and that's when you had the big old phones back then. Just got the mobile phone. Miss Zina, please come. There's a guy here. He's throwing all the food away. I'm like, what? And so I'm like, okay, I'm down the street. So I come. First, I was thinking, well, why you let him in? That was what you don't know who he is. So I come in and Carl's like, has this big garbage, but he's like, you don't need this, you know, this is junk, this, whatever. He's just like throwing this stuff out. Carl and I are really good friends. Actually, I saw him 2 nights ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was getting the Houston Sports Award. So then she goes, I called my husband and I said, this tall black guy is here and he's throwing all Miss Zina's food away. So he said his name is Carl Lewis, and her husband said, what? Her name was Nubia. Nubia, you don't know who Carl Lewis is?
Oh my goodness.
That is hilarious.
I had no idea. None.
Oh my goodness. That is hilarious.
So,
talk about this black man throwing out Miss Zina food.
He threw it all out. And I'm like,
so what are some of the things that you still would like to see changed in the game?
Well, more women coaches for one thing, but that's across the board. I mean, it's still, you know, male dominant, and people feel like, you know, women cannot coach, or, they don't they don't trust the women's coach. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of silly, but you're a woman, but you don't trust a woman's coach. But a lot of it has to do with the people around you, the circles you're in, and and it's just kind of interesting.
Oh man,
gotcha.
Yeah, that is crazy, and we know that you have actually done plenty of coaching in your career, from, of course, being Fed Cup and the Olympics, and I mean, talk to us just from that perspective, from being a coach of players like a Serena Williams and Venus, and I'm just very interested in just how did that work out for you, and how did you either enjoy it or just absolutely hate it, or all of that in between?
Well, exactly. Well, the interesting part is I was actually mentored under Billie Jean King. So I mean, I was very blessed, and Billie's has always been a mentor of mine. But I was her assistant coach for Fed Cup and also for the 2000 Olympics, which we had Monica Seles on that team. We had Venus and Serena. That was our first time. The one in Sydney, and God, who was the other player? I can't even think of who the last one was. But Lindsay. Yes, it was Lindsay. I don't know how I could have forgot that one. That was in itself. But yeah, because she wasn't speaking to Billie that day, but she would speak to me, so it was just crazy.
Oh, wow.
That was a drama. Oh, wait a minute. All right.
But so I mean, tennis players, we're all fickle, and you have days up and downs like that. But so long story short, I learned a lot under Billie as far as coaching, and so when it came time for me, I loved it. I am very moody, so I do believe that coaching somebody on a day-to-day basis, you have to be willing to basically turn over your whole entire life. I don't like that part as much because, like I said, I want my time, but I love analyzing and helping people. I believe that I'm very good at coming in and seeing and coming out or putting together a game plan. So up to date was like 4 or 5 years, so Taylor Townsend, Kamala and I took her from 583 to like 583 in the world to like 83 in less than 6 months. And then she dropped us.
Oh, wow.
So, but I made the mistake, in my opinion. She lived with me for about 2 years, and it was a lot. So, and it was in the growing up days, but I am a very old-fashioned and tough coach. It's all about your truth to me, because I learned from Billie, and I learned from, even Arthur Ashe. She's like, you have to be true to yourself to correct yourself on the court, and that's the truth.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And speaking of, I guess, Billie Jean King, something that I'm hearing, and when you're speaking, it feels like I'm learning that there was more camaraderie there amongst the players than I would have thought. Because as a spectator, you look and you see rivals on the court, but you don't really think about the relationships afterwards. And I would just love to hear from your words, a little more about what those relationships were like then, and are they still the same now, or have they changed? And who were the people you were close with?
Yeah, well, I said, it actually was even closer back then because you only had basically a certain amount of people. Now the sport is so big, everybody comes with their entourage 10 deep. They're making so much money. It's always so many around. It's the Instagram. It's the whole thing. But give you an example. So I came later, but the original 9, which you'll hear a little bit more about, this year, because it's the 50th anniversary, they, for $1, basically started what we know as is women's tennis now.
Right.
And or even women making money in sports, period. If it wasn't for these 9 ladies that broke the barrier, who knows where we would have been now. But, and, once again, been led by Billie Jean King. So now I think you see the girls, and I think, yeah, they're friends and everything, but how close can you really get with 10 deep?
Right.
Somebody always looking to, come in, and it's all about money now. So
it seems like with the players, at least for me, looking at current players, it seems like Sloan and Madison kind of have a nice little bond. I mean,
they truly are friends. They grew up together.
Yeah.
Oh.
But no, I see what you're saying, though. It does feel like when you look at other players, it does seem to have an element of superficialness, if you will.
Right.
And I think, Serena and Wozniacki, they're true friends.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You'll have your couple, but what I'm saying is that it does make it tough because there's so many parts to it now.
Right.
Because I remember back in the day, whether it was true or not, in my mind, I had you and Lori McNeil as like best friends.
Well, Lori and I grew up together, so Lori and I were more like sisters because we grew up literally everything since 10 years old. Lori and I, we were together all the time. We played doubles. We had the same coach, so we truly were. I mean, we fought like sisters, but yeah, so. You were right on that, but it's because we also grew up together.
Gotcha.
Right.
And we've seen, just, through events and things like that, you apparently are still very friendly with Martina and Chris and Billy and a lot of your people that you played with.
The contemporaries.
Yeah. Just, I kind of came later on, but they all took me under their wings. And, back then it was all about growing. We grew up under the Virginia Slims label. So it was all about growing that label. And, it was all about, learning to sponsorships and all of that. And, like I still have my foundation it's been 27 years now, basically women's tennis that we were the start of kind of making a little money and, starting foundations and all of that. Everybody else kind of came after that. But tennis players, black, white, or whatever, have always kind of been the leader of starting all that. People forget that, though.
Yeah. So one more thing kind of on that subject. So Isaac and I, as, spectators and fans, and even when you think about this podcast, we support tennis. We love tennis as a game, but we always have that little special or extra energy for, the people of color, specifically African Americans, or even people of African descent from other countries.
Right.
Is there a camaraderie in real life like that? Like, for example, does Venus Williams privately root for Sasha Vickery when she hears that she's playing, right?
Yeah.
Just because she's a fellow African American sister, right?
Yeah, I can't really say that I can't because I can't speak for them, but it's a natural thing anyway. Like I can tell you, Venus and Serena are very conscious of the black players that are coming up because they came through. They were right on the cusp of knowing. What the good and the bad, because, they're of that age that you kind of, they broke a lot of barriers. And their dad, Richard, and their mom, bred them to understand all parts of it.
Right.
So they were not clueless at all. But I think what happens also, I can say this, for me, I was taught at a very young age that I was to pass it on to others, and this is like from Barry to Maya to, there was a guy by the name of Reverend Skinner. These people were pillars in the community, that told me, look, you need to pass it on to the new one. So I took that role very seriously. So when people, and it was funny because there was an Asian girl by the name of Tracy Surgeon that came on, and she told me this story not too long ago. And I did it with black or white. I didn't really do it just with black players. but more so sometimes with blacks because I knew the struggles. But I remember she telling me once that I came on, and she's like, I was like, look, this, this circuit is like serious. Like you have to be serious. Don't be hanging out. Don't want. And she was telling me the story. She's like really big, I think now in like Red Bull or something. She's like, Zina, you were one of the first person that set me down and was like, don't be messing around out here. And then another one of my from Chanda Rubin. Chanda was like, I remember hitting with you for the first time or whatever. You were like, look, you need to get it together. You're missing too many balls. Like
that's hilarious.
It's like, but you taught me how to. She's like, I basically taught her how to. We got to be serious when you practice and all of that. So. And like Chanda, I don't know if you guys watch her on the tennis channel. I am so proud of her. She's doing.
She's our favorite.
Oh yeah.
We've met her a couple of times, and she has always been just the most genuine and nicest person. We talk her up a lot on our podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, no, she is wonderful. And I used to be one of the things I used to do all the time, and so when we were at Wimbledon, the Sunday it was off, I liked to cook. So I would cook and have all the black players over. So that was kind of
nice. All right, now you talking my language now. Come on now.
So that was a way that I kind of got everybody. And even if you were like on the TV crew or something like, Ahmad Rashad would show up, like I would just invite. That was like our time. That's what we used to do. So I don't know. I doubt if they still do that, but.
Now, you done opened up a can of worms now, Zina. Now, what's your favorite thing? What's your favorite meal? What you cook?
Oh, I cook a little, but gumbo is one of my favorite. Enchiladas. Unfortunately, I like to cook.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
But it was funny because the last time it was like 5 years ago, I was with Taylor and I went to the Australian Open and we had some friends there. And so I get a phone call from Venus. She's like, are you going to cook? I was like, what? So we all got together and I cooked. And they, Venus is really vegan. She's like, I'm cheating today. So I made fried chicken and greens and everything. And so Serena walks in behind. I'm like, where's your chef? I'm not your chef. She's like,
that is awesome.
Oh, man, I love it.
Well, speaking of food, we're going to kind of turn this next question to your hometown because, we know you have a lot of love for the city of Houston. And like I was telling you earlier. Yeah,
And don't talk about my Astros. Leave them alone.
No. And what I was going to tell you is, like, when I was mentioning that I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, I actually lived in Houston for a couple of years in the early 70s when I was a young a child. Actually, one of my best friends in the world lives in Houston. Shout out to you, LJ and Shelly. And I have some family that lives out in Porter. But for me, Houston is where I was introduced to Papados. Oh. And whenever I'm in Texas, I don't care if it's Dallas or Houston, you will find me at Papados.
Oh, God.
So talk to us a little bit about your love of Houston, because we know you rep Houston pretty strong.
Yeah, I'm a strong, always rep my city, even when I wasn't living here. But and it's even better now with our mayor. But anyway, I just always loved Houston, and it's always just been, I grew up, being around a lot of athletes and entertainers used to come to the park and play and raise money for us. And so I've always noticed that there was a lot of athletes and entertainers would like retire here, or they would, train here because of the weather. And so I've always just had a huge admiration for the sports and entertainment here. But more than anything, it's always been a city of giving. Like when Katrina happened, we opened our arms and, just a very giving city. It's just a very giving city.
Actually, the family that I referred to that lives in Porter, that's when they were originally living in New Orleans.
Oh,
They relocated because of Katrina. Absolutely. So I know what you're talking about there. Well, speaking about the city of Houston, we know, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, you do have an academy. You do have the Zina Garrison Academy, and we know that you have some big events down there.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I started off, the name was the All Court Tennis Academy, and then I changed it to the Zina Garrison Academy. But anyway, I started it because I had the opportunity to learn how to play the game for free. And my coach, John Wilkerson, was the one that gave me the opportunity. So John actually had worked for the program up until he just turned 80 this year. And the last 2 years, he's been pretty, kind of sick. So kind of had to retire him. That was a difficult thing, but he still loves the sport. But saying all that to say is, he instilled in me, along with the others at McGregor Park, about, at least giving kids the opportunity to learn the sport, and you don't know where it could lead you, and just the values that it gives to a kid, gives him a platform to be able to do anything. So it's really cool when you hear, recently this guy came in and he said, Zina, I just wanted to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity, now own my own architect business, blah, 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 blah. But the values that I learned. So it's like, you just never know where, didn't mean you have to be a professional tennis player, but the values that you get in tennis are just so much more valuable for you as a person.
Absolutely. And Zina, that's one of the things that we here at Brothers on Tennis are trying to do more of as well, or at least we want to be kind of open to that and open that door for, how we can get, the youth and get more involvement and not only just the sport, but just, African-American youth, because again, there just wasn't that exposure to this game of tennis. And I know that we are seeing more African-Americans in the game today, but I still feel like there's just another level that we can reach as it relates to getting our youth involved there. So it's really incredible to hear about your academy, and for our listeners, again, make sure that you're supporting. Go out to Zina's website. Is it
ZinaGarrison.org?
Yeah. And let's show support.
And the great thing, I wanted to say this too, is there are more playing, but if you notice, it's still not that many in the limelight. It's still only a couple of few.
That's right.
And the thing goes back to, I try to tell parents, like, if they all of a sudden they don't see like a quick reward, then they want to take their kid out. This is of patience and longevity and improvement each and every day. It's not something that's going to come. And I was just speaking to, Kamal the other day, and I'm like, where are the brothers?
Right. Come on now.
Like, not since Malavia, Washington.
That's right.
And we have, you have Francis right now, and his ranking's about to drop a little bit because he's being truthful. He did the Australian Open last year, but then he's still young. But, the thing about that is, I'm like, but is he now just happy to be there?
Right. Is he? Yep. That's
because you have to be careful with that. Once you make some money and you just happy, that fame and everything, you just happy to be there. But dude, that you got to do all you can do as fast as you can do it.
That's it. Exactly.
You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's exactly. And that's kind of what you were alluding to earlier is, to me, you got to have that love for the game. It can't be just getting a little bit of money and being complacent.
Right.
You got to be able to just continue to put in those hours and get better and improve. And that's what you want to see out of a player, like you're seeing from a Coco and a McNally, is, again, that love for the game. And everything else takes care of itself if you have that.
Yeah, you have you know, Barry Gordy said to me, what you want is longevity. You don't want no short career. You want to be able to last. Like, people know your name even after you retired. And I never forget that. You know, he instilled that in me. And he literally got a publicist for me. I think he paid like $125,000 to show me 1 year that I do not have to win on the court to be famous. And I was like, no, I need to win a Grand Slam. He's like, no, you don't. He's like,
He's like, no, you don't. You're all right.
I had my worst year, and people knew my name. So.
Oh man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zina. Yeah. Well, again, we love the fact that again your academy is focusing in on the youth, and hopefully it will produce some of those new talents that will have that love for the game, and we can really kind of get behind and support.
Well, actually, mine is not really set up. I'm just being honest. It's not really set up for that because it is set up for giving as many kids the opportunity to learn the game, and if they want to go further, but also to enhance, whatever dreams they might have, but using the goals and the values that tennis gives out of that. Further down the road, and the reason why I say it like that is like, I don't have like a high performance coach, and I'm putting it like, it's changed the sport has changed so much, and everybody is a high performance coach, which ain't true, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, but you get the kids like all hyped up. But my thing is, if you give them a strong foundation, then you don't know where it could take you. That's right. And because now these kids go to academies, and their parents are like putting up their houses to something like, what? Are they crazy? Like, it's your chances of making it are slim, no matter who you are.
Right. That's right. That's right. I mean, in any sport, it takes a lot of effort, focus, and time in order to be great. And even then, you put all those elements together, it's not a guarantee.
You still need some luck.
That's right. That is exactly right. I'm telling you what. So, Zina, basically, I guess we wanted to ask you a little bit more about just your thoughts on just the game in general. So it's just sort of opening it up. I know that we were talking about certain things we wanted to focus in on, but just overall, just things that you want to share, things that, you feel like people need to understand and hear about, having, all of the internal knowings or knowledge that you have about the game. And again, having been around it for decades, just things that you would like to share that you want folks to just be aware of.
Yeah, well, I think I'll use one example of something, I just don't agree with, and it's just me, everybody's talking about coaching on the courts, So they've done it with the women, in Grand Slam. I mean, not Grand Slam, in regular tournaments, but not in Grand Slam tournaments. Well, and this is a debate I have with a lot of people. Yes, I am old school in that respect, but people don't understand, like, it takes away from the player learning the game.
That's preach. We feel exactly the same way.
You have somebody that's helping you on the court, and you can say, yeah, well, you do it in team sports for Fed Cup and whatever. Okay, I get that. But I'm saying, so you have that player, you have that coach on the court, comes on the court when the player is playing a regular tournament. So then you go to the Grand Slam, which is our big tournament, and the player's like, I don't know how to play.
Right? I never forgot. Right.
Yeah. So, and then you talk about, go back to the coaching, the Serena's being coached doing the U.S. Open or whatever. So if you truly want to put the coach, first of all, you got to realize most coaches, not all, but most coaches have huge egos.
Okay.
Park coaches community coaches, grassroots, professional, whatever, tennis players, some of the biggest egos. It's just like golf. You ever know in golf, everybody thinks they know something.
Oh, yeah. That's the truth.
They want to teach you something. But
no game, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying that. So okay, so why? So what's the big deal of letting coaches? If you're in the stand, then let them give you signals or something. Like, what's the big deal about that?
Right. Because it happens anyway. I mean, it's not like
exactly.
It's not stopping them. It's happening.
And didn't we hear that they're gonna test this year?
They're supposed to test it, but the only thing is, think about it. The reason why most coaches and want to be seen because they want to be known.
Yep.
So that's why they want to go out and they want to, it's all about entertainment. So I get that sells, but how many times do you listen to the coach when the coach goes on the court?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Really, that's you like, oh Lord, what is this? Nobody really sits there and listens to him. And then if they're talking, and if they're talking another language, hell, nobody knows what to say. Sorry, I said hell, but nobody knows what to say.
That's okay.
That is all right. Oh no, we are right there with you, Zina.
So, and speaking of coaching, I just would love to hear your perspective. Do you think Richard Williams is ever going to get his due?
Preach.
For what he's done? Now, don't get me wrong. I know there have been other coaches involved and everything, but when you're talking about the master plan that he set into place,
yes.
What's your thoughts on that?
He will, and he should have been already in there. He should have been. You talking about the Newport Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, he should have already been in there. But most of the time, they'll wait until the girls retire. I would say that it'll probably happen, but and then I don't exactly know how that works. I kind of know a little bit. You have to, I think it's like Major League Baseball, any of those. You have to have people out there lobbying for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there's no way they're not going to be able to put him in there.
There's absolutely no way whatsoever. I mean, literally, Richard Orsine, the Williams sisters, they changed the landscape of tennis, similar to yourself, similar to Lori McNeil, similar to Althea Gibson. I mean, come on now. And that can't be denied. It cannot be denied.
Right.
Well, Zina, we absolutely appreciate you being with us and talking with us. This has been one of the most entertaining, I can't even tell you for me how valuable this has been just to talk with you and just to hear your stories, hear your perspective. I'm really on cloud nine right now, being very serious. Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys, and keep up the good work, and it's all good.
And I echo everything that Isaac said, and I would also say to our listeners, please do, visit ZinaGarrision.org to learn more about her academy and opportunities to support.
Please support it, folks.
There.
That's right. Please support it, because, hey, we got to support our sisters.
Absolutely.
Come on now.
And don't forget, Tyler, if you're out there, call us. I'm correct. Yeah, I'm sorry. This time at night, I get a little talkative because I'm really kind of shy. But
we'll have to reach out and find Tyler.
We're going to have to. I'm going to have to.
Yeah, let's get that movie on.
That's right.
Exactly.
I know that.
Real quick, though, you guys, there's never really been a good tennis movie. So he could really break out with it. Have you ever seen a good tennis movie? I haven't.
I have not.
No.
I have not.
I would say no.
So that gives him something to reach out and do, right?
Well, hey, his studio is down in Peachtree City, and we know some folk in Peachtree City, so we might have to go.
Well, come on, brothers in tennis. We need to write that script. We need to get paid.
Well, our producer has those talents.
Yeah, that's right.
He's kind of in that industry a little bit, so we'll have to circle back with him.
There you
Look,
go.
I always say, and the other thing is like, and I'll let you guys go, but I'm always like, commentary. I'm like, wouldn't it be like really cool if we had like somebody like Kevin Hart or something like analyzing tennis or something. It's like so boring.
Well, and you're right. They have Will Ferrell and those types of folks that come up in there sometime. We need to get some African American folk up in there. We need to get Kevin Hart. What? Oh gosh, I can't remember.
It's like
Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah, Tiffany Haddish. Yeah.
Kamal always says to me, Zina, you can do it. I was like, yeah, but my problem is like I have the name of. It's like I said something the wrong thing, and not what I really want to say.
Right? Listen, you can always say what you want to say on Brothers on Tennis, because what? It's a safe space.
Look. It ain't never safe because you never know who's listening. So
that's true. That is true.
That is it.
So Zina, thank you once again, and to our listeners, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And we are going to take this moment to sign off. And as usual, this is your boy Bryce.
This is your boy Isaac,
and we are Brothers on Tennis. You take care, everyone.